for episode 4 of Rev It Up Racing Show, brought to you by Steel City Motorsports. We're here with JP DelPaggio and Keenan Spurway. How are you guys tonight?
Good, pretty good.
JP, the first thing is, how did you get into this crazy world of auto racing?
I was brought into the sport. I went to go watch my girlfriend at the time's uncle. Met up with a buddy of mine from hockey way back in the day. Started talking to AJ Daniel the first night I was there. And I mean, my dad's got a farm in Laird, so I'd heard all the cars go around the racetrack, and I was bugging him to build me a race car, but he never would. So
Friends like that?
Yeah, pretty much. So I just kind of ended up going. This would have been 3-4 years ago now. Met up with AJ, and I ended up, long story short, I ended up talking to him, kind of getting involved with his racing program, and I ended up buying his truck, and that's how I started racing. So.
And Keenan, how did you end up on the track?
I guess it's kind of in the family there. Rob Heima, my uncle, he's been racing since early 80s. My dad was racing.
Before you were born?
No.
Close to it?
Close to it, yeah. My dad was racing late 70s, early 80s, fifth line, so story's been told that I was there when I was 3 months old, so on the tailgate of a pickup truck at fifth line, and I've been kind of tagging along with Rob all through the years, Onaway and Kinross and Laird, and it just happened.
So, and I use some guys to the side here, friends of JPs, still play men's hockey and stuff like that for fun. You guys do a sport that's not cheap. How does an average guy, JP, finance something like this?
Well, I mean, it's a lot of basically me working all summer to try and afford tires, fuel. If something breaks, you got to pay for that, as replacement parts and whatever. But a lot of it is, if you can get a lot of sponsors, it's a big help. And I think he's got quite a bit, and they help him out. And I'm starting to work on that kind of basis where I can try and eventually get some more sponsors. But all my sponsors really do help me out quite a bit, and it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for people. You go into a business and they give you money to go and do something you love. There's nothing better than that. So.
And Keenan, how do you more or less, I guess, they finance your passion or your second job?
CIBC. No, a lot of sponsors, they stand behind me, and they treat me really well, and try to put the best product possible on the track, and give them their money's worth for advertisement, shirts, and promoting on parades and community days and that. But
being on location with your car?
Yeah, on location, just go there, they're good enough to give me the money and to help me out to fund my racing program, so I can take a day out of my summer to bring it to the location, do a parade, whatever I can to return the favor. So the sponsors definitely help me fund this racing. I know starting off like JP there, it's not easy the first few years, but you get 3 years under your belt, and starting a fan base a bit, and the sponsors see what's going on, and I think he has a good future ahead of him if it continues.
He can keep his cool?
Yeah, if he can keep his cool, but it's just, I started a little bit later than I wanted to. My career started a little bit later and all that, so, but I see a pretty good future with his driving ability, and, and for the most part, he's young, so he's gonna do a few things that, make it hot-headed sometimes, but that's just
add some entertainment.
Yeah, it's entertainment, but I could see a bright future for him. He has some sponsors, he has good equipment, and never seen a guy as dedicated to racing for a long time. Like he, for what he has, and money-wise and sponsorship-wise, and that, it's kind of like I was about 6 years ago, and I could see him going above factory stocks and maybe a late model down the road, but he's doing the right things.
And like I say, this coming up this weekend, we have the Summer Bash at Laird. Also, they're including the Chris Jones Memorial because it was rained out last week. You're only sitting 11 points ahead of him. How do you keep that lead over the Bay Street roller this weekend?
Bay Street roller, right?
Well, first to interrupt, how did you get Bay City roller?
Oh man. Well, Greg Brazel just recently came back to the track to be up in the announcer's booth there. And, I bought a truck off of him this winter, I believe it was. Yeah, it was just the end of winter, and I ended up rolling it on Bay Street. So first night back at the racetrack, he come up to me and he's, Jay, I got a new nickname for you. Stick around. He goes, I want you to listen. All right, well, whatever. Obviously, I'm in the car. I can't hear when he's announcing me, but all my buddies, Bay Street Roller, what's all that all about? I'm like, oh, God. So, yeah, that's how I got my nickname.
So how are you going to keep your lead over him going into this weekend?
Well, I have two options, just to beat him or wreck him. No, I don't want to mess with the Bay Street Roller. Actually, there's some tight racing with Kyle Jarrett. He's running really strong, really competitive. DelPaggio, myself, we had some pretty good racing, and when the three of us, we make it up to the front, it's really clean racing. We'll give each other a little tap or something and say, hey, we're there. But Jarrett summed it up in his interview on the mid-season. Like, we respect each other and run clean racing. And if we got something for the guy, we'll prove it that night. If not, we're stuck behind him. So. And
that's where the racing, sitting in the pits, watching it from there, sitting in the stands. Even though you guys are sitting here, friends, having a beer, but as soon as you get on the track and put the helmet on, it's not that you're not friends, but we have seen a little bit of bumping and hitting between the two of you. And like you say, as soon as you come off the track, does that stay on the track and then?
No, it's just Jay's new to the sport, so yeah, there's been a few times he gave him a little tap more in the corners, but just rattle him up a bit. He's younger at it. I had Kozak there. When I first started, I had to deal with him and ran me clean and. Just gave me a tap, hey, I'm there, and, I'm just giving him, a few times a little tap just to say I'm there, but never rack him or spin him out, just, hey, we're racing, so, after the race we may have a beer, but right now the helmets are on, so it's a race.
It's just the racing, it's something, it comes along with race, right?
Yeah.
Like I watched the Infinity race last week and going into the last corner, guy tapped the guy to get the win.
Yeah.
JP, one of the biggest things, you got your first career win at Kinross, your feature win this year, but at Laird, it's just not happening. What's going on there?
I don't know. I mean, I think the last 2 weeks in a row here that we've raced at Laird, I've had the car to do it, no doubt about that. But I don't know. Maybe just a little bit of bad luck. I don't know. I really don't know what to say. I just got to keep kind of doing what I'm doing. I'm sure it'll come eventually. I think I have a curse. Because this guy over here bought me a bottle of champagne for my birthday, knocking on my door, and I'm still laying in bed because I went to the bar the night before, it's 21st birthday. So I finally go up and answer the door. He's standing there with a bottle of champagne and deckled 22 in black and orange and everything, and he's like, you bring this to the track and you're going to win your first feature at Laird and whatever. I haven't brought it up to the racetrack once. So I think maybe that might be a part of it.
And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but Dustin Jackson told me last week, he, like I say, I interviewed him and he won his feature. So I don't know if that helps, but
So
Dustin thanked me for it.
So one or two
in the feature coming up this week.
I'll take that.
We can split, there's 2 features, we can split them if you want, but I probably not. I probably wouldn't.
So, biggest thing, I don't want to get into politics, but I got one question that's going to be towards politics. Over on our side, should there be mirrors and headsets if you choose to on the track?
I haven't been around the sport long enough to really be able to comment on that. I mean, I think the way it is right now, it's teaching you how to be a better driver. No mirrors. You're looking behind you. Like George Wilson.
Well, I've been told if you ask Jackson, you drive like this half the time.
Well, that was in my 4-cylinder days. Okay, and I already got in some trouble there from a mentor of mine. George Wilson's basically telling me, and I agree with it. You're looking behind you. You're not paying attention to what's going in front of you. How are you supposed to go fast forwards if you're looking in reverse all the time? I mean, that's just my young, inexperienced opinion, but I feel like the way we're racing at Laird right now, and with the rules in place, it's developing better driving. You're starting to, I mean, I'm getting to the point where I can hear out of my, say, right ear who's on the outside of me. You know what I mean?
Keenan bugging the crap out of you, right?
Right. Pretty much. I don't know. I just feel like it should be listening with your ears and being able to drive like that. So.
And your thoughts?
Radios would be nice, but then it's just another expense right now. Maybe.
But choice-wise, so.
But no, choice-wise, if they want to do it to make it fair for everybody, I could see them going to radios, but maybe not next year. Give guys some time, because you know we might be spending $1,200 on good radios. So maybe at the end of the season for 2017, we're going to go with radios. Mirrors, I'm fine with. I put a mirror on my car at Kinross before. Never used it, but one thing that's nice about the mirrors is when you get a caution, the only time I used it, who's on my ass? You know what I mean? Like, is it someone that's going to charge, make a good charge on me? And besides,
is it going to change my race?
Yeah, and I was like, on a caution, yeah, but during the race, I'm looking, if I was in the lead and I'm looking 2 cars ahead of me, what's going on? And in the mirror, I'm not really too concerned with what's going on behind me, hold my lane, and you can hear out of your right ear, you don't want anybody passing on the inside, so yeah, you're always listening in that, and but a mirror is nice for myself, is just during a caution. I just want to know, do I got, say in the mods or something before, is like, is Mav Jr. behind me, or is there Plumbo behind me, or now in this class, who's behind me, like someone that's going to make a good charge. It's like, I want to know. And in cautions, I've been known to go up to the top of the track and kind of, see if the guy underneath me is going to come up and just, okay, well, it's Jay. And it's okay, I'll pull up ahead. And it's just a little game that you got to play, and, they...
Strategic, right?
Yeah, and I just want to know who's behind me. And then if there's a guy in the lead or something, and you got something for him, there's times on a caution you pull up beside him and just tell him, instead of tapping him, say, hey, I'm here, and give me a lane, or you're going to get a couple little taps. And, but that's the only time I'd ever use a mirror, just in caution.
Well, Jay, we sat with Dustin Jackson last week and did episode 3, and we were talking, unfortunately some of it got edited, but we were talking about emotion. I knew what you were like when you were younger, but now, like I say, how do you try to control your emotion or temper behind the wheel?
That's a good question. It's not always easy, especially when I was younger. Obviously, you knew me when I was playing hockey.
Can't believe you're not in jail.
I've heard that from a few people, but
your parents?
No, yeah, my parents a few times. No, it's just it was when I was younger. It was hard for me to keep my temper under control and whatnot, but. Other than what happened, I don't know, I'd say about 3-4 weeks ago now. I mean, it's that's the thing, is I'm surprised in myself, is it's more of an emotional sport. I've got, like, my parents put me through hockey. I've got my own money invested in this car. I work hard on this car every day in the garage. You unload the car on Thursday, you're in the garage on Thursday night or Friday working on the thing. You're putting all your time and effort into it, and a lot of money goes into it. You get emotional when something detrimental happens to you on a racetrack.
It's not like a hockey stick or
it's
something
not
like that.
you break a hockey stick, okay, you go buy a new one. I mean, those aren't cheap either, but like we're talking about like $5,000 to $10,000 cars in this specific division. You're going out there and you're riding around with a lot of emotion, and when you got the car to beat and something happens to you, you tend to, you'll unfold at some point. It's just a matter of how well you keep your emotions in check, and I feel like, I let a little slip up happen, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen again, because, that's just the sport, that's the way it is, but it's definitely hard, but I feel like the guy who is sitting in his car running a race, you got a lot of things going through your head under caution, per se. The guy who can keep his emotions in check, the best is, a good shot to win the race, no matter what kind of car.
And that's why you're leading the division, right, Keenan?
Maybe so.
Yeah. Keenan, one question I have is, how do we get more Americans coming over to, like, say, Laird, or more guys going over to Kinross? Like, to, I guess, say, playing the sandboxes where everybody can get along? How do we get more Americans over here?
We really got to try to get these rules to work together. You know what I mean? Like, say, for example, we got two types of mods, and right now our class is like 50-50, you know what I mean? We got layered mods, and we got the Michigan mods. They don't love mods, but they're Michigan mods. And, you know, Donnie opened up the doors for ABC cars, treaded tires, to come race at layered, and, you know, so we can bring in the Michigan cars now, whatever rules they got, and the layered mods can't go to Kinross anymore. So, you know, they got to kind of just say, okay, well, these tracks are 15 minutes apart. Let's, you know, let the layered mods run their slicks and all that. And they've ran, in the past, they've always ran a layered mod, and they've always equaled out well. But, you know, no gear roll, throw it, you know, they got to have a 2-barrel just like they run at layered. And, you know, in the past you could run a 4-barrel, but just let them run, and our factory stocks can run there. Donnie's already opened the door for both of their classes, so this is kind of, you know, it might be something a little bit harder for this year, you know what I mean? It's almost at an end, but maybe, you know, both parties can sit down and just say, hey, you know, let's run the identical rules, because they're so close right now. And a tire thing, you know, maybe everybody should be on American Racers. Hoosiers aren't very readily available. Like myself, I really want to go to the memorial race, Ted Brooks race there, and Randy DeWitt. And now, you know, for myself to be competitive, there's some pretty stout cars showing up. Got to track down a set of sticker Hoosiers.
And you're looking at about $700. By the time sitting down with the
yeah, $700. But I just, you know, it's getting into the politics of it a bit. I really don't want to go that direction, but you know, these Michigan cars, like myself, I'm running a treaded tire. I think we should be on American Racers in a 2-barrel, and that's what I'm running right now. And to make them competitive with the layered car, I just think if we're going 4-barrel and Hoosiers, I just think we have a really big advantage. And you know, and if I take up my mod next year, I think if I put a 4-barrel on my mod with slicks, I think I got a big advantage, which I think we should have a 2-barrel in the slicks. So kind of cut my own throat on both of my cars, but I'm just, to make the racing better, I think a layered mod, 2-barrel slicks, any gear, okay, and the Michigan cars, American Racer, 970s, and a 2-barrel, and I think you're going to see a lot of tight racing. And yeah, at the end of the season, if we did that next year, you'd probably see the stats. It's pretty spread out. And
I don't mean to get into the politics between the two tracks, but it's not like I use Southern Ontario or Southern Michigan, where you have so many tracks to choose from.
Oh yeah.
Where here we have, like say, Laird, and then the closest is 1,600 kilometers by the time you do the round trip to Southern Ontario, where we have 3 or 4 in Michigan, where we have one that's only 20 miles south of us. If they work together, it's something that would benefit the racers and the tracks.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, you got to look at you know, Kinross. They feed from a lot of Canadians coming over, and you know, and Donnie's doing a lot of work to, you know, to attract them and that, and he's opening up his books and all that. And you know, I wasn't sure how these Michigan mods are going to be with the layered mods. I just thought, you know, the cornering speeds and straightaway speeds, it might have been a little bit disastrous, but watching the mod races out there, the guys are putting on a really good show. Guys are driving smart, you know what I mean? Like, you know, hats off to all those guys in the mods this year, and I'm pretty disappointed that I don't have mine out there right now myself. I didn't think it was going to pan out as well and all that, and I'd definitely be back in the mod next year too. Yeah, it's good racing.
Well, with having a young racing career, like between the two, you're not saying age. There's almost 20 years between the two of you guys, the drivers. Close to it. Okay, if you want to be honest, like I say, if you really want to get to it, almost 20 years.
No, over 20 years.
You don't want to admit it.
16.
That's all. 16. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, JP, with being younger, How do you attract the younger guys or girls to, it doesn't have to be Laird or Kinross, just to racing to get them the next set of drivers to come up? Like Dustin, you have Anthony Manarino, you have a
Right.
few of the younger ones, but how do you attract the younger ones with you being new to the sport to get into it? Because again, it's not a real cheap sport.
Right. Chase Wilson, those guys. We need to maybe promote those guys.
Almost like a grey. You could almost do like a greyhound situation where in the wintertime they could even go into the schools or.
Absolutely. Well, you go and present yourself as a young, active race car driver, and these young kids are going to see, well, these guys are just as young as us. Why can't we do it too? So I feel like maybe get these guys out in the public more. Attract the younger kids to be able to see what they can do while they're young. You can drive a race car nowadays without even having a driver's license, like Dustin and these three kids they've proved, and you can do great things at a young age. So I think probably starting with the younger kids, trying to attract them into the sport is probably a good start.
And it's something going back to you work full-time jobs, and then like you say, you grab the wrench and you work late hours in the garage and things like that. Keenan, how do you manage to mostly? This guy's single, so he doesn't really have anybody to answer to. But with you like say you have a boss at home and a couple kids. So how do you
Depends what
manage
week
the
it is
two?
for him, but yeah,
He's still wearing the diapers.
yeah, like, we got music and soccer and all that stuff, and that's usually earlier in the night, and put the kids to bed. The little one goes to bed around 8, and the other one goes to bed around 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe later sometimes. But usually try to sneak out in the garage. Might not be getting out there till 10 o'clock, but there's nights that get out there at 10 and work out there till 3 o'clock and put the push on and find out what you need for parts and get them by Monday night or whatever, Tuesday night, get it together, and like to have the car completely race ready by Tuesday. So yeah, it's a balancing act, but really patient family, like all around in between. Grandparents helping out and that during race season. There's been times that been bailed out. I really needed to get something done in the car, and they'd watch the kids during the day. But it's a lot of midnight, 2 in the morning nights to get it done. But he'll realize that in about 15 years.
We'll see.
If he's married,
We'll
he
see.
finds somebody.
We'll see.
Now going back, like I asked JP about getting the younger guys and girls involved. Like say, talking off camera, you have a 12-year-old daughter. If she ever came to you and said, "Dad, I want to race," how would you take it, or how would Mom take it?
I don't know, well, I kind of know how Mom would take it, but I wouldn't say no. I leave the options, the doors open for the kids.
Your little guy.
Oh yeah, the little guy is gonna be a handful. I know that already, but stick him in the car. He's in there for half hour. It's like a babysitter for me. I'll go out in the garage and measure tires, or change the oil in the car. I stick him in the seat, and I just hear the shifter banging and the steering wheel going, and so that occupies him. But yeah, my daughter wanted to. I don't know if she has the interest, but if she did,
Would you be able to ball the nerves?
yeah, it'd make me sick to my stomach watching my kids do it. But I guess no different than my parents, like, watching me do it. And I got my grandmother. She's watched Rob Heima, my uncle there. She's watched it since 1980, and then she's out there watching her son and her grandchildren. Steve Hyman, he's racing them all part time, and then myself. And yeah, so I don't know if I could handle it, but when the time comes, I'll just have to deal with it when the time comes. But
Be easier than keeping away from the boys.
yeah, that's.
You got the shotgun loaded already?
Yeah, that's a bunch of guys in the pits. Yeah.
That's a whole different story. We need a whole separate interview.
Yeah, but no, I support my kids, whatever they want to do, and if it means at the time for me to get out of the car, that's no problem. It's kids come first, so you know, say in 12 years if I'm still behind the wheel and you know, Chase wants to get in the car, you know, hopefully I can give him some knowledge and some good equipment to make him competitive, and I'll give him whatever I got, and you know, hopefully bring some sponsors along and give him some good equipment.
Now, earlier today I got a message from somebody, JP, and he said he is learning to listen with his ears instead of his mouth, and using his ears and taking advice is starting to show well. As soon as he figures out how to be consistent every lap, he will find it even more success, I believe. Who do you think said it? Other than he really said you're gay and really gay.
It sounds like a George Wilson quote or something like that. I think, yeah, am I right?
Yep, you're right.
It's good to hear stuff like that from a guy that you went to the races watching and looked up to.
Him coming back, hopefully, Friday night.
I'm excited for it. That's the guy that I went to Wool and watch, and I feel like I remember being this tall, going to Chunky Cheese, and
Now you're making George feel old.
he's sitting there giving me free slices of pizza, and I'm excited to go and watch him race. So my dad taking me by the hand, we go watch George race, and I got the opportunity to start racing, and he's been very, very good to me, giving me a lot of great advice, and means a lot for someone who's so young and inexperienced to come up into a sport and have such good support, especially from a guy who's been doing it for years and has been very, very successful doing it. And yeah, it means a lot. But
Now teaching his son, and
you know what? His kid's got. He's going to be quite the driver. He's got a very, very good coach, and I know he's going to have good equipment. And yeah, no, he's a very, very big part of our sport, especially local racetrack like Laird. He's done a lot, and he brings fans every week. And you know what? You get to the point where you listen to a guy like that, and you learn to just shut your mouth and listen, and it probably benefit you a lot better in the end. Taking in all that information, he's taught me so much without even knowing that he's teaching me something just by me listening to him. I look up to him like he was one of my idols when I was growing up, watching him race. So that means a lot.
And then going back, I say episode 1, it was Chase and George, and one question I asked you earlier, Keenan, was about mirrors and headsets, and I asked Chase because Donnie allowed a headset in the car with Chase being younger, and I said to Chase, what do you think of headsets in the car? He goes, I don't like them. And I said, why? He goes, Dad made me nervous. And it wasn't on George's fault, but being young, it's just, I heard something in my ears, and at the same time, I'm trying to learn how to drive. So for when it comes to the headsets, for younger, it was a benefit, but coming from somebody, like you say, who knows what they're doing, Chase said it was a little bit more nerve-wracking. So
Yeah, I can see, you know, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You know, there's a lot of pressure on Chase, because, you know, we all know what George has done behind the wheel of a race car.
have you raced him?
Yeah, a couple of times at Kinross and a mod, but getting on the topic of Chase on the radio and that, you know, you're dealing with, you know, George Wilson on the radio, you know, what he's done in Oscar, what he's done locally, and, you know, in Michigan and that, and so it's, you know, the kid's gonna have a lot of pressure on him and that, but he has a really good coach, and I think he's gonna have a really bright future also in racing, and you know, I can see why it makes him nervous, you know what I mean? But George is
Great coach, great mentor, but being
Yeah.
dad sometimes.
yeah, and just dad, and you know what I mean, and
You deal with it at home, then you deal with it at the track.
yeah, but you know, it's all gonna sink in time and all that, and
And you know the situation, your dad raced, so.
yeah, and it was even when I went out there myself, I was like, you know, expectations maybe, you know what I mean? You got a lot of years, you know, my dad's been around racing for a long time, pretty knowledgeable on the car, and my uncle's had a really good career, and he's competitive still to this day. Right now, it just seems like the guy to beat right now at Laird, and I think it's going to be a good battle with him and George. But it was a lot of pressure. I didn't want to go out there and, these guys they've done well in that, and I didn't want to go out there and
You're
look
racing
like
for
a joke or anything.
You're
so
racing
it's
for
no
passion,
pressure.
but you're racing to entertain the fans
Yeah.
also, right?
Yeah.
So now, Jay, is there people you'd like to thank when it comes to your sponsors or friends who help you, like say underneath the car on the Friday nights?
Yeah, I want to thank a guy like Bart Jarrett. He built this car that I bought off him. He's been the first guy there to give me really good advice and help me out. Kyle Jarrett drove this car, did extremely well in it, and I'm just trying to live up to the expectation that Kyle kind of set for this car. It's a very competitive car, and I want to just drive it as well as Kyle did. Wouldn't be able to do it without all my sponsors. Jesse Witcher, who paints my car every single year, makes it look great. I don't think the guy gets enough credit. He's going to be one of the best painters in the suit for sure. The guy, he puts in a lot of hard work and time into it. And yeah, no, just like the Harp, Viotto and Sons, both my uncles, the Wax Shop, North Shore Poker Tour, just all my sponsors. But if I didn't have them, I probably wouldn't be able to race. So very appreciative of that. My parents for putting up with everything. Me spending all my money and all this time in the garage. So they're very supportive of it, and I can't thank them.
Nice sitting down the track every so often.
Absolutely.
When your mom's home, she comes and visits
Yep.
and watch and
Yep.
ball
And
nerves.
when she's not here, she's in Alaska wearing her DelPaggio tank top and supporting and sending me pictures. It's kind of funny. My dad just started coming out to the racetrack after seeing him so nervous. I had some bad experiences in my 4-cylinder, but now he's starting to come around to it, and he's starting to see that I'm learning how to drive and whatnot, and he's being very supportive of it lately too. It's awesome. It's good to see.
And Keenan, who would you like to give a couple shout outs to?
Well, first, my family for the patience and all that, and, you know, giving me the free time to work on the car. Rob Heima, my uncle, built some really good mills for the car. Always got a fast car with his motors. Todd Jackson, he's helped me over the years, you know, good deals, and then car setup. All my sponsors, I don't ramble on about them all, but my main one that from day one was Kev Stopes, Mr. Suds, dent shop. He's my first sponsor, and he stuck with me right from day one, and give him the prime spot on the car, and
Where would JP bangs you, right? Bangs you around on the track?
yeah, that's usually the bumper.
So, like I say, I'd like to thank Steel City Motorsports being our main sponsor. They're located at 188 Gore Street. They're fully licensed. Go down and visit Sean July and George Wilson, and they work on automobiles and motorcycles, all parts and service, and we can't thank them enough. And Jay, I can't thank you enough for being on the Rev It Up Racing show.
Thanks, sir.
Keenan, thanks a lot. Only question I have is, Matt Thomas is off camera and 11 points separating these two boys. Who's going to take it Friday night at the Summer Bash?
That's a hard question, Jay. I don't think I can answer it.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll see. I'll interview you both after the race, and we'll see who wins. Well, thanks a lot.